Hey everyone, my name is Valerie Anderson and I'm a yoga teacher and movement coach. So today's practice video is going to be a little tutorial and practice kind of together. So we're going to talk about the feet and we're going to talk about standing. So the practice is going to be all standing and it's going to be how we can adjust our feet, the direction of our toes, the angle of our legs, so that your practice is your own and not some cookie cutter format that everyone in the room is following. Okay, so to start, we're going to talk a little bit about the feet. And you have your big toe, obviously, you have your pinky toe, you've got all your toes in between, and then you've got your heel. So it's kind of like a little triangle of your foot. And on the outside edge, it's firmly planted, and on the inner edge, you should have a little lift to your arch. And some people can even press down into their big toes and their pinkies, and then feel the weight centered between the front of their foot and the back of their foot so that they get a little lift in their arch. And if you can't quite feel that lift, that's okay. Just mentioning it, that it's possible to give a good squeeze into toes and feet into the mat. Once you find a little rock forward and back to notice, okay, my feet are pretty balanced from the front of my foot, the ball, to my heel. I feel centered there. Then you can put your hips more or less over that. Now I've got my feet separated. If your feet are together, maybe you naturally just wanted to go there with your feet. But I always say, why not give your feet a wide distance a try? Just to notice if the foundation feels a lot stronger for you. Having your feet in a fixed point makes, yes, you a little bit more wobbly, but if you're going for a balanced effect, maybe that's where you want your feet to be. If you want a firmer foundation, you're going to plant your feet as wide as you would like them to go. They can be hips distance, they can be a little bit wider. Mine are a little bit wider right now because that feels nice. So take a couple more rocks forward and back. Maybe you can move a little with your breath too. And as you're shifting forward and back, your heels might start to rise. Maybe your toes will start to come off the mat. And then you're going to go as far back as you'd like to lift the front of your foot and lean as far forward as you'd like to lift your heels. You might even pause a little on each end, challenge your balance a little. And then we're going to shift the weight into our right foot and we're going to come onto the ball of our left foot. And we're just going to circle around either with the toes down or up so that we can give them a little stretch, a little massage. Get your ankle going too. You can point and flex, turn hip in and out. And then when you're ready, you're going to switch to the second side. So you'll shift the weight into the left foot and let the right foot start to roll around. Shift forward and back, or turn your hip in and out. Get a little movement for your toes, for your ankle. All right, we're gonna create a wider stance here, so our feet are gonna go towards the edge of our mat. And sometimes in yoga, it's a wide-legged stance. They might say, as your arms come out, that your feet should be somewhere like by your palm, or your wrist, or your forearm, your elbow, right? I don't always mention that because it's nice to just feel stable through the legs. I don't want to be too wide. I don't want to be too narrow. I just want to feel like I have a wide stance, but I'm also strong and firm in it. And then you're going to take a reach up with the arms on an inhale. And then exhale, lower them down. And you can do that a couple more times. You might reach the arms forward one of your rounds. Sweep the arms back. Maybe you start to circle around the arms, either forward or back. Nice. Bring your palms, your arms back to stillness at center, and then you're going to heel toe your feet back in towards your midline. All right, we're going to go into a little squat here, commonly known as chair pose. I'm going to turn to my side. And I'm keeping, again, that wide distance because that is going to be more more firm and strong, put those two words together, more firm and strong of a base. And I'm keeping it mostly about hips distance wide. And then I'm going to take my squat real shallow at first. And my palms are going to support me on my thighs. And this might be where your squat is today. You might decide to go a little bit deeper. You might decide to go real low. You can pair it with your breath if you'd like, and inhale or exhale as you go up or down. You might even try to take a wider stance with your feet. Maybe point the toes a little bit outward towards the sides of your mat. And if you're curious, you can always take your squats really narrow by bringing the feet together. And notice the difference, how it feels a lot less stable when our feet are together. And it might even actually not be your best for your knees or for your hips if you're getting a response that you don't like. Just go back to wider legs. If you notice that your feet feel great, but your knees are knocking inward as you come down, it's not necessarily right or wrong. You're just noticing. And then try to pull your knees outwards so that they're squatting straight down towards the floor rather than knocking inward. All right, we're going to leave those alone for a moment. And then we're going to come to a couple of other standing poses that are pretty infamous. So lunging, just step back with your left leg to go first. And you can either have your heel up or you can have your heel down. Some people can do that with a squared hip where the 2 points are facing forward, and other people have to kind of open their hips a little bit, allowing their pelvis to twist with their spine a little to make it happen. Either way, it's fine. Whether you want your heel down or not is fine. If you want your toes to be out even more, this is still a lunge, and whatever you're trying to get out of it can be achieved no matter if your hips are square, if your heel is dropped, or if your hips a little bit more open. So try a couple of those factors. Come back to your breath. Shift between the 2 or 3 different forms. And depending on what day you come to your mat, you might prefer one over the other. So step it forward. We're going to switch. You're going to come into your second side. You're going to do the same thing. Maybe you just notice that you land a certain way right away. This is where you like your lunge. I tend to have my hips pointed forward, but there's a lot of folks where this is uncomfortable for some reason in their body, in their bones. So play around with that heel dropping, the toe turning in and out, more space for your hips. And then while you're shifting and moving around, a word about your feet. You don't have to be standing on a tightrope. You can have a fairly wide stance that is wider than your hips. You can have a more narrow stance. You can have your toes pointed a little bit on the outward side of your mat or the midline of your mat. You're just noticing all these ways that you can adjust so that you find your high lunge of choice for whatever you're trying to achieve in that pose. Go ahead and step forward to the top of your mat. Give a little shake, a little wiggle. And then we're going to come to one more pose, and it's going to be a warrior pose. So you're going to step your feet wide-ish, right? And one of your feet are probably, your forward foot's probably going to be pointed directly up towards the top of your mat. And then your back foot, again, you can decide if you want it to be pointed a little bit more towards the back corner, if you want it to be pointed a little bit more towards the front corner. And you can also just have it pointed directly straight outward to the long side of your mat. And then you can adjust your hips accordingly with your foot placement, how wide the feet are, how narrow they are. So I could draw a line pretty much from the heel to my inner arch, but having your heel and heels meet is fine. Having your heels and your toes meet is fine. So find where you like to place the feet. And if you felt like you stepped too long and it feels unstable, again, if you're trying to challenge your balance, maybe you stay where you're at. Maybe today you want to have a shorter stance that feels stronger and more stable for you. And then breathe in and out of the nose. You can shift back towards your back leg a little. You can shift forward and bend more into that front knee. That knee does not have to be right over that heel, and it can be in front of your heel even. You can have a narrow hip position. You can have a wide hip position. All these are great little ways to kind of fine tune into it. You can be doing whatever you want with your hands or arms. And then you're going to switch. So find your way to just simply turning your foot in the next direction. So if you were facing the camera, you might need to flip your whole body around to face the camera again. Or like me, I'm facing my camera this way so I can just move my feet. And then find your second side. Figure out, where do I want my feet? It could be totally different. If you've had any ankle injuries or other issues with your feet, you might need to change the angle of your foot from one side to the other. How much bend you have in that front knee or not, whether your weight's shifted forward or back. And then take a moment or two here to work your way back to your center line. So either step to the top of the mat or heel toe inward. And then again, explore that firm foundation with your feet so that they're a little bit wider than touching, or maybe hips distance, or maybe even wider than that. Stand tall from the tailbone all the way to the top of the head. Relax through the brow, through the cheeks, the tongue, and the shoulders. Let the arms drape at your sides. I hope you enjoyed this short little practice where we moved our feet around in some very familiar poses. Make them your own, whether you're in a studio, taking an online class, or practicing on your own. Thanks for watching.